Looking for some names you can start this week in fantasy football? We got some list of names here that you might be wanting to throw in your lineup for this week. All right, guys, welcome back to Vegas Has Locker Room. I'm your host, as always, Jay. I got my start list for the week. It is Saturday. Every Saturday, we come out with our start list, so please click that subscribe button and join me every week. And I'm here every Saturday to give you my start list for guys you can play in your lineup this coming Sunday. We're going to start off with the quarterback position. Kyler Murray. Gotta love this game. It's got the highest over-under of the week. They're playing Washington, who really struggles in defense in any position. And I really think this is a game where Kyler Murray can break out. He's got that running ability. Still, Marvin Harrison's starting to find his stride, and Michael Wilson is really starting to find his own. Yes, they're without Trey McBride, but I think this just feeds the wide receiver role a little bit more, and I think Kyler Murray could be a great play this week. That being said, his counterpart is on my list as well. Jayden Daniels, I think, can have a spectacular weekend, especially against this Arizona defense, who's really, not that great. Jayden Daniels really found his stride last week against Cincinnati, and I think that stride continues as he really hooks up with his receivers and really gets a rhythm going. Look for Jayden Daniels to have a huge week this week. Next one on my list is Geno Smith. Detroit gives up the third most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. Yes, they did well against Baker Mayfield, but if you watch my show for a while, you know I'm not a big Baker Mayfield fan. I think Geno Smith has a big day, especially in that offense, and they're really starting to get their stride together on offense. Next, the running back position. I know a lot. I love play everybody in the Arizona-Washington matchup that you can. That being said, Brian Robinson should be a guy you want to have in your lineup this weekend, especially with Austin Ekeler being sidelined for the week. His role can go up, and he's played really well this season. Look for Brian Robinson to have a huge day this week. Next is Zach Moss. Carolina gives up the fifth most points to fantasy running backs, and I think this league can grow really quickly because I think Burrow and that receiver core really gets going early. They build a lead, and Zach Moss really comes in and cleans up, and the running game gets going. Look for Zach Moss to have a huge day this week. I think this is going to be in the game script for them to run the ball. My big play for the week, though, is Aaron Jones. Yes, Minnesota's defense has played well this year, but they are giving up the ninth most points to fantasy running backs, especially in the receiving game where Aaron Jones thrives. Look for that to be the key point in having a big week out of Aaron Jones. You got him. Don't hesitate to play him. Next are the wide receivers. My first receiver, DK Metcalf, goes along with Geno Smith. Detroit giving up the third most to fantasy wide receivers. This should be no surprise. And I think DK Metcalf could really flourish, especially that big body. Look for him to find the end zone this week. My second receiver, Chris Godwin. Yes, Mike Evans is the number one guy there, but Godwin's been on a nice little roll lately, and Baker Mayfield's really search for him. Philly gives up the most to opposing wide receivers, of course, and look for him to really flourish this week, getting a lot of targets and a lot of receptions, especially if you're in a PPR league. The third guy on my list might be a little bit of a surprise, and that's DJ Moore. Looks like they're really trying to get him the ball in that offense, especially with Caleb Williams' early struggles. But they are playing the Rams this week, who give up the sixth most of fantasy wide receivers. Especially if they're really trying to get him the ball, I think he had a huge day. Yes, it may be short passes, but especially if you're in a PPR league, look for him to have a great day in fantasy for you. My tight ends of the week this week, Dalton Kincaid. Baltimore gives up the sixth most opposing tight ends, and I think this is where they really flourish. This game should be a little high scoring with a 46.5 over-under, but I think the tight ends play a huge role for Buffalo this week. Look for Dalton Kincaid to find the end zone once again. Next is Cole Kmet. The Rams are giving up the second most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. They really talked about getting him involved more in his offense. I think Cole Kmet could see a lot of red zone looks. Look for him to have a great day, especially the tight end where it's just a huge mess and nobody can figure out who to start. My number one guy in tight end now this week, surprise, surprise, is Mr. Conklin from the New York Jets. The Denver Broncos give up the most of fantasy tight ends, but they give up the second least amount of points to opposing wide receivers. So look for Conklin to really flourish. Rodgers is no dummy. He's been there, done that, and I bet you if he finds the weakness, and that is them covering the tight end spot, look for Conklin to have a huge day. Well, again, guys, Thanks for joining me on the Air Every Saturday for my start list. Join us on Tuesdays when me and one of the Vegas guys talk the previous week and outlets for waiver wire pickups and some of the guys would believe in going into the next week. But until then, guys, I'm your host as always, Jay, and I'll see you in the next one.